They mistook it for a cargo ship. Slow, massive, an easy payday. Two skiffs loaded with armed Somali pirates sliced through the waves at full throttle. Engines roared across the dark waters of the Gulf of Aden. Their target? A hulking silhouette on the horizon. No flag, no lights. Just cold steel and silence. In pirate terms, that screams unguarded freight. Wrong move. In under 90 seconds, that freighter exposed its true identity. A floating war fortress. Not just a U.S. Navy vessel, but a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. The kind that launches warplanes before sunrise and packs more firepower than most nations. The pirates brought AKs and RPGs. The carrier had 5,000 sailors, radar-guided missile systems, C-rams, CIWS cannons, and zero tolerance for threats. What followed wasn't a standoff. It wasn't even a battle. It was a message, one that began with a warning burst and ended with rifles aimed and pirates face down on a ribby. Because this is what happens when you pick the wrong target. This is what happens when you come after a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier. And this was a massive mistake. Radar spotted them first. Two fast-moving contacts, low profile, no AIS ping, advancing rapidly. Inside the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower's Combat Information Center, CIC screens lit up. An operator called it out instantly. Contacts. Two small vessels. Bearing 085. Closing in. In the Red Sea, that could mean only one thing. Hostile intent. The officer on watch didn't hesitate. He keyed the comms. Bridge, CIC. Alert flight deck. Launch Seahawk immediately. Outside, the carrier was already springing to life. This wasn't some lumbering cargo ship. It was a strike group at full alert, and Eisenhower was the brain behind it. Within 2 minutes, an MH-60R Seahawk lifted off. Blades screaming, crew ready, sensors live, gunner locked in. It launched directly into the sky, moving toward the unknown. On deck, everything moved with precision. Yellow shirts cleared the path. Red shirts secured armaments. Green shirts signaled for another aircraft on standby. Back in CIC, a new alert. Skiffs splitting. One's veering away, the other coming head-on. A classic pirate ploy, divide and distract. The captain's response was sharp. Hold course. Let them show their hand. The Seahawk closed in, scanning. The pilot relayed confirmation. Visible weapons. That sealed it. Warnings were skipped. This was a clear threat. Another Seahawk launched. Meanwhile, on the destroyer, USS Gravely, VBS teams geared up. M4s, flashbangs, body armor. These weren't peacekeepers. They were naval commandos, with orders to strike fast and hard. The C-ram turrets whirred silently. Radars locked onto the skiff like a predator. The Gravely shifted position to flank. It was like watching a high-speed chess game. The pirates had no idea what they'd stirred up. At 800 yards, the Seahawk dropped altitude. The door gunner pivoted the M240. No rounds yet, just a warning. Message sent, you're out of your depth. The pirates didn't retreat. One stood, lifting something long and metallic. RPG. That confirmed it. Weapons visible, continuing intercept, the Seahawk reported. The captain acted instantly. Two RHIBs from the Gravely splashed into the water, each carrying a full VBSS squad. The carrier never fired a shot. It didn't have to. That's why it has an entourage. But had it escalated, the firepower was locked and loaded. Gun mounts tracked targets. The Seahawk hovered steadily. This was rehearsed. The gunner gave one last visual cue, a burst across the skiff's bow. Water erupted inches from their hull. That broke them. The pirates hesitated. Too late. The RHIB surged in, boxing them tight. Drop your weapons! Hands up! Now! Blared the loudspeaker. Chaos erupted. One pirate tossed an AK into the water. Another froze. The rest were swiftly subdued. In under 30 seconds, it was done. Weapons secured, pirates zip-tied, pinned, and hauled onto the RHIB. The skiff was roped in. The threat was neutralized. Eisenhower never slowed, because carriers don't flinch. They don't waste ammo. They let their battle group do the dirty work, and those pirates, they finally got it. They hadn't just targeted the wrong ship, they picked the wrong ocean. Lying cuffed on the deck, with boots planted beside them, they started to realize. But the Navy wasn't done. Attack a U.S. carrier, even clumsily, and they don't just stop you, they dissect everything. They investigate, archive, trace signals, photo every weapon, analyze every inch of your hull. Because today's pirates with RPGs could be tomorrow's armed smugglers. As VBSS teams hauled suspects aboard the Gravely, a second Seahawk was already scanning, reading heat signatures, intercepting chatter, checking for encrypted radios and GPS devices. Turns out, this wasn't just some rogue crew. It was a probe. On the Eisenhower, operations continued without pause. Jets launched. Deck crews worked unfazed. The mission didn't stop. That's what carriers do. They keep going while the world catches up. They're not just warships. They're nuclear-powered fortresses with more computing power than most countries. The pirates? They thought it was a freighter. Right until a Marine leaned over and asked, "You do know you pulled up on an aircraft carrier, right?" Silence. Then a quiet mutter. Roughly translated, "Huge mistake." So why is a U.S. carrier the worst possible target? Because attacking one is like charging a tank with a spoon. Only the tank launches jets, runs on nuclear power, and has its own ZIP code. A carrier never sails alone. It's flanked by destroyers, cruisers, subs, and a sky swarming with jets. It's a floating war city. Take Eisenhower, over 1,000 feet long, nearly 5,000 crew, launching FA-18s faster than some airport cycle planes. Below decks, hangars, radar arrays, intel hubs, internal security. You don't sneak up on a carrier. You're flagged before you hit the throttle. Weapons, it's bristling. C-rams, CIWs, ESSMs, anti-air, anti-ship, anti-everything. Seahawks with thermals, growlers for jamming, Hawkeyes in the sky. They didn't even tap 10% of that arsenal. They didn't have to, but they still documented everything. That RPG, bagged and tagged. The sat phone, disassembled and analyzed. Every radio burst logged. Seahawk telemetry compared with known smuggling routes. Then came the link. An intercepted radio ping matched chatter from an armed shipment near Eritrea. This wasn't piracy. This was reconnaissance, a dry run for something bigger. The Navy shifted into high gear. Within 12 hours, data hit CENTCOM, AFRICOM, and intel hubs from Bahrain to Djibouti. Next time, it might not be pirates. It might be drones, or manpads, or worse, every skirmish is a thread. And the Navy pulls it all. Oh, and the second skiff, the one that split off, it didn't escape. A drone caught it 6 nautical miles out, near a suspiciously clean fishing boat. A RHIB from USS Mason moved in. 2 more pirates detained. 1 laptop seized. A whole list of questions waiting under fluorescent lights. What began as a sloppy raid triggered an intelligence bonanza. Satellites repositioned. Comms monitored. The sea held its breath. Because when you mess with a U.S. carrier, the Navy doesn't issue warnings. They set examples. And the ocean? It remembers. The chatter dies down. Radios fall silent. And for a time, everyone thinks twice. The Navy doesn't just stop threats. It sends a message. We saw. We stopped. We learned. And next time, there won't be one. This wasn't just a failed ambush. It was a wake-up call. A reminder that even in the era of satellites and stealth, threats still float. But when that threat knocks on a U.S. carrier's door, it's met not with fear, but precision, speed, and overwhelming force. The Eisenhower didn't just defend itself. It turned chaos into intel, a silent broadcast of power and preparedness. Because someone, somewhere, is always watching, pushing limits, probing defenses, seeking cracks. But what they forget is that carriers like Eisenhower aren't just ships. They're armored embassies, symbols of dominance, backed by satellites, destroyers, and a tireless defense web. And when the storm hits, they don't flinch. They cut through and leave silence behind. So the next time a pirate gang, rogue cell, or rogue state thinks about poking the lion, they'll remember this day. A skiff versus a supercarrier? That's not a battle. That's a global warning. The seas may be vast, but the U.S. Navy sees everything. And if you provoke them, they'll respond before you even know it. Thanks for watching. If you found this story gripping, intense, or just plain badass, hit that like button. Comment below, what was the pirates' biggest mistake that day? And if you love military strategy, cutting-edge warfare, and real-world missions, subscribe.